Hey guys, I'm Nick and welcome back to Sci-Finatics. Or if you're new here, please don't forget to click that subscribe button to keep up to date with all the latest Star Trek Discovery news. Today I'm talking about episode 3, The People of Earth. Our crew finally travel back to Earth and we get to know a bit more about what's going on with the Federation, what the deal is with the new organisation that's hitting up Earth, and some new adversaries. There's a mixed bag in episode 3, a bit of this, bit of that, bit of everything. Let's take a look. So as per my sneak peek breakdown from last week's episode, we get to find out in the opening personal log from Burnham what she's been up to for the past year, and she is basically informing the Discovery that she's become a courier. We're trying to work out what the deal is with the burn. She tells them what the state of the galaxy is in terms of the lack of dilithium and the fact that it all exploded one day, and that she's been trying to work out what the hell's been going on with that. The episode pretty much then picks up after we left off from last week's episode with a nice reuniting scene between Burnham and the rest of the Discovery crew in the transporter room as she beams on board to greet everybody. This was an emotional scene. I had an emotional reaction. It was really nice seeing her getting hugs and everything from the crew, and I feel now we've been with these characters for long enough for them to mean something. And it was always a criticism I had of Discovery, that the fact that the crew maybe was a little bit more unknown than past Star Trek series, but I think it's feeling a lot more familiar. The crew is more of a family, and this definitely played out in that first opening scene. I've got to say, Burnham's demeanour in this episode, she's very chill, very relaxed. She's sort of maybe found her zen or something in the last year that she's just been hanging out with Booker on his ship, because she's sort of far less highly strung or wound up or something. She's just kind of very mellow in this episode. I'm sort of liking this new Burnham, I think. Burnham is having a chat to the crew and talking about the burn and how all the dilithium exploded at once, and Stamets sort of saying, well, that's impossible. All the dilithium can't just explode simultaneously all at once for no reason. I love the line from Giorgio in this scene where she says, like, she sort of rolls her eyes and says, says the man who jumps a starship through mushroom space. It was a laugh out loud moment for me. Giorgio is a good character. She comes out with some good one-liners. And we come to learn that Burnham has come across an old Starfleet or Federation message from a Admiral Senna Tal. Now, Admiral Tal basically sent out a message into the galaxy waiting anybody from Starfleet or the Federation who can come to Earth and can help, I guess, rebuild the Federation and keep things going along those lines. But this was 12 years ago, and Burnham hasn't been able to get back to Earth. I kind of get the impression that the planet, or at least this sector or system where Burnham is in, isn't necessarily in the Alpha Quadrant. Earth is so far away she hasn't even got a hope of getting there with conventional warp drive with the dilithium that she has got. She also talks to Book in this episode about making a new start in a new quadrant. So I wonder whether the location that they're actually in isn't in the Alpha Quadrant, or maybe it's deep within the bottom corner of the Beta Quadrant, or even, maybe in, the front corner of the Gamma or Delta Quadrant. Who knows? But all we know is that Earth is a long, long way away and unable to get there until Burnham has now had access to the Discovery spore drive. I love the scene between Burnham and Saru where Saru says, oh, we kind of got to have a chat, like, about who's going to be captain, sort of thing, And Burnham just, no, we don't need to chat about this. It's all yours, Saru. You've earned it. You're welcome to it. I think it was a really nice scene, and the way Burnham just sort of swiveled the chair around and faced it towards him as if to say, you brought the crew through, you're the man, take the chair. I also love the moment when all the crew, Saru's giving his big captain speech and saying how we've got to, make the future bright again and everything, and how all the crew in unison says, "I Captain." So I don't think we've ever heard all of the crew at the same time saying "I Captain" before. Normally it just sort of goes around in one by one sort of scenario, but it was a good moment to have everybody together on this situation and all agreeing Saru is the man for the job, he's the new cap. I enjoyed the scene between Burnham and Tilly in the corridor when Tilly's kind of lamenting the loss of all the crew members that have died along the way, Starfleet badges and stuff placed up on the wall of the corridor in sort of a memorial. And she's sort of realising that her mum's long dead, her cousins are long dead, all the people they sort of once knew were long dead, and that sort of time travel is kind of messing with her mind a bit. But they kind of share a moment there together, are glad to be in each other's company again. And even Tilly says that Burnham seems lighter. There's a presence about her that's a little bit more zen, as I was saying before. Booker joins them on the ship, welcomed by Giorgio in the transporter room, where they have a little bit of a Starkey two-way communication about whether or not Burnham is Booker's girlfriend and what she's been up to in the last 12 months, gallivanting around the galaxy. It's always good, some of the comedy that comes out of Giorgio. I think she's a good character, and I think they've certainly put her character to good use, to a great comic effect. And Book is really impressed with the amount of dilithium these guys have on board their ship. They've got a huge supply compared with what we've seen in the first couple of episodes, and Book is just kind of blown away. He's saying, wow, you guys have got enough dilithium here to run like a dozen sectors. It's huge. So Discovery is certainly going to need to watch out that people don't try to take advantage of that. So because the amount of dilithium that Discovery has is a pretty huge target, Booker is going to stay on board the Discovery. He's going to park his ship in the shuttle bay, and he's going to cloak containing all of the ship's dilithium so that it's kind of hidden from potential raiding parties. On a personal note, I love the approach shot to Earth from the Discovery, because they're headed straight for Australia. It's not often you see Australia up front and centre on the globe of the Earth in science fiction shows.
You're on a ship, a spaceship, orbiting the Earth. Australia?
Right there in the centre of the planet, Australia. Love it. And on their approach to Earth, they find out that Earth is completely surrounded by a very high-tech force field array that's encompassing the entire planet, which activates, locks down. They're surrounded by these sort of futuristic-looking ships, and they find out that the Federation and Starfleet is nowhere to be found anymore. In fact, there is a new governing body called the United Earth Defence Force. Earth has become very isolationist. They've locked themselves into the planet. They've got a force field surrounding them. They don't like strangers. They don't like anybody they don't know. They've just locked themselves down and shut themselves away from the rest of the galaxy. So a whole inspection team of these United Earth Defence Force security officers beam on board the ship and have to do a full inspection to make sure there's no piracy going on. Booker has to get changed into a Starfleet uniform, which he kind of hates doing, can't stand it. Giorgio has to do the same thing. So everybody appears on the up and up. Giorgio opts for the Admiral's costume, of course, because she has to be the highest possible rank she can possibly be to match her ego, no doubt. Captain Ndoye tells them that the Earth is under constant siege. They kind of had to lock themselves off from everybody else. They're being raided by everybody who wants to steal their dilithium all the time, and they just had to kind of lock themselves away from the rest of the world. There's a guy called Wen, and he's raiding ships, and he's a pirate that kind of keeps attacking them for dilithium. It's very much become a kind of dog-eat-dog universe out there. And Saru and Burnham find out that Starfleet and the Federation don't exist on Earth anymore. If they are in existence, they're headed up on some other planet somewhere else in the galaxy, and Earth is basically left the Federation, left Starfleet, and are now headed up by this very isolationist military organisation called the United Earth Defence Force. In fact, she says that the Federation and Starfleet haven't been on Earth for the last 100 years. And they try to find out a bit more information about this Admiral Tal, who'd sent the message 12 years ago calling people from Federation or Starfleet to regroup and gather together again. But apparently Admiral Tal died 2 years ago, and there seems to be no record of where he was or where he was heading at the time. So it definitely seems like Earth has become so isolationist and so insular that they're not even willing to negotiate with these raiders and Wen and so forth. Saru has trying to open up a channel to communicate and see if he can work it out, and Ndoye is not having a bar of this. She kind of just doesn't want to talk at all. Earth has become a very small-minded place, I think, when it comes to interaction with other species because of all of the raids and the dilithium and disputes and everything. Everyone's just locked themselves away in their proverbial homes and just don't want to know what's going on in the rest of the galaxy anymore. I'm feeling some sort of timely parallels with this sort of notion. The fact that in 2020, as a world we're very much, locked down, because of the pandemic. Everybody's sort of locked alone in their own little countries, and travel is off the table, really, while we're sorting this pandemic out. And it feels like there's some parallels there, the way Earth has locked themselves away and doesn't want to, can't communicate with the rest of the galaxy effectively anymore. So Book and Burnham do a bit of a ruse on the Raider captain when pretend they're going to give him all of their dilithium, and when he drops his shields, they beam him off his ship and take him into custody. Because the United Earth Defence Force, they're not really up for communication and not really up for negotiation. They're quite happy to blow Booker and Burnham out of the sky to stop the dilithium getting into the hands of Wen and his raiders. I did think that Wen and the raiders that were pictured in the trailer for this episode, with the alien helmets and the three red eyes, I thought they might have turned out to be Control because of the three red eye configuration. Much similar to Ariam's three red eye configuration when she was possessed by the Control virus last season. So I thought, maybe these guys are, robotic kind of alien life forms with Control, but that's not the case at all. Thanks to Giorgio being a bit frustrated and things taking a bit long in the diplomacy department, kicks his leg out from under him, pulls his helmet off and reveals to be a human. Some bloke from the Saturn colony. He's been struggling to make ends meet, needs a bit of extra lithium. It was kind of like a true Scooby-Doo moment, I thought. Pull off the monster mask off the villain and, I would have gotten away with it if it just wasn't for you meddling kids. They were self-sufficient a century ago, but there was an accident and they lost a third of their people and their colonists, and they've been struggling to make ends meet. They have no long-range communications, couldn't call for help. They sent a ship to Earth, and Earth just destroyed them because they were a bit scared. They were going to be raided for dilithium. There's a cute scene here between Stamets and Adira where he kind of springs her, tinkering about with stuff. He knows that she's kind of not really meant to be there, and she's not really kind of part of the inspection team, that she was kind of responsible for hacking into their system so that she could stay on the ship for longer. And she knows that something is up with the crew because it's an old ship, everything's new looking, and they're not kind of from their right time. So they kind of share a nice exchange. It's sort of cute. I like the Adira character. They're a good character addition to the cast. She said she wants to join the crew. In fact, she knows Admiral Senatal, who was the Starfleet officer who sent the message out there 12 years ago. I love the scene here between Saru, Burnham, Ndoye, and Wen the Raider. It seems almost like Saru and Burnham are just effortlessly managing the situation. Burnham saying, Earth, can you help them? Send some engineers, help them fix their place. And, Titan, can you give your research to Earth? It very much feels like a couple of naughty school kids that have been brought in front of the principal's office or whatever, and they're getting a slap on the wrist for not using your words adequately, fighting on the school grounds without actually communicating with each other, which they should have done from the beginning. So it was kind of a fun scene to watch Burnham and Saru school these two warring bodies into doing the right thing and actually talking for once to help resolve their differences. It's the epitome of Starfleet and the Federation. And I love the little look that Burnham and Saru kind of give each other at the end of this scene as the Star Trek anthem plays in the background. I almost expected these guys to give a high five and go, yeah, like, we know what we're doing. We've done this before. We know how to school these guys. We might be new to this part of the galaxy and new to this century, but we still know how to bring it together. Captain Ndoye leaves Adira with Discovery. I'm kind of a little bit surprised in this scene that Captain Ndoye refers to Adira as she. She will stay on your ship and she will be part of your crew. Whereas I was under the impression that the character of Adira was meant to be non-binary, therefore should be referred to as they, technically speaking. But that's just an assumption on my behalf. And here we learn the background of Adira. She is, in a sense, Admiral Senatal. Although Adira is human, she carries a Trill symbiont. And obviously that Trill symbiont was formerly Admiral Senatal. So Admiral Senatal was a Trill, and when Admiral Tal died, perhaps the Trill wasn't available to implant the symbiote into, so it ended up having to go into Adira. However, Adira is finding it difficult to access some of the memories of Admiral Tal, maybe because she's human and not Trill. So I'm sure we're going to get into that in forthcoming episodes when the crew journey to Trill. And it seems like even though Burnham has built this life for herself as a courier, and she's made connections and has kind of really developed a bit of a new career life and everything for herself, she is going to take the job of First Officer and stand by side of Saru on board the Discovery so that they can work out what needs to get done to find out about Starfleet, the Federation, the burn, all that sort of stuff. Well, the crew gets a bit of welcomed shore leave down to the grounds of Starfleet Academy, where Tilly and Bryce and Detmer and Owo and Reese all find a tree they all used to sit on the grounds of the academy where they used to study and everything, and it's a nice little naturey kind of scene where they reminisce about how they all used to sit and study under this tree back in their Starfleet Academy days. It's no longer Starfleet Academy. It's obviously the grounds of some sort of maybe administration building as part of the United Earth Defence Force. So it appears the crew are off to explore the galaxy to find out where the Federation has ended up, clearly not on Earth, and find Starfleet again. And I guess the first place they're going to be looking is the planet Trill, based on the fact that Admiral Senatal clearly was a Trill, and the symbiote is inside Adira now. So I'm guessing they're off to Trill to see if they can maybe uncover some clues as to Senatal's memories and where the Federation exists now and how they are going to reunite it again. I enjoyed this week's episode. It had some really emotional moments that pull on the heartstrings, and they weren't corny or cheesy or trite or anything like that. They just played it well to the heart. I think Jonathan Frakes did a good job of directing this episode. I think the balance there was right. Had a good amount of humour from our new character of Adira. There were some great lines from Giorgio, as always, and we got to see and learn a little bit more about what the state of Earth is with the whole United Earth Defence Force and the fact that the Federation and Starfleet no longer exists there anymore. It's a very isolationist kind of planet now, locked away by themselves, and they're self-sufficient, don't need anybody else, and they're not letting anybody else in. But what did you think of this episode? Leave a comment in the comment section. Don't forget to share, like, subscribe, check out my merchandise Patreon page, all that sort of stuff, links in the description below. And I'll be up soon the next day or two with a look at the trailer for episode 4 and a sneak peek at that episode as well. So stay tuned for that. I'll see you then.